Audible?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. Why Pushkar, why you are not there on Saturday class? Hmm? Why you are not there for the Saturday's class, Pushkar?
Actually, sir, my laptop just broke down, so I took it to
Okay.
the service center. That's why, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now I will ask you one question. I request everyone to raise your hands. How many of you seen the quiz question which has been posted at 1 o'clock? Kindly raise your hand. How many of you seen the quiz questions and those who have attempted, at least those who have seen, please raise your hand. Yes. Total 11 members have seen. 12 members. 13. Only 13 out of 27, 30 members have seen. Hmm? Yes, 14 members have seen. Yes, whether it is tough or easy. Yes, Meghana, whether it is tough or easy.
Sir, I still didn't see, sir.
Okay. Arpita, whether it was tough or easy.
It was medium, sir.
It was medium. What are the questions you felt very tough?
Sir, like T flip flops and master and slave one, sir.
Ah, yes. See, we discussed all those things in the class. So if you remember means, okay, I can agree it is medium. Yes, what about others? Yes, Manish, how was that quiz?
Medium, sir. Moderate, sir.
Moderate. See, I have given those questions with a view of for the competitive exams also, it will be easy for you. So based upon that, I have given that. See, all the means, okay, the procedure, working procedure, and I cannot give that because in a quiz. So it was, yeah, I wanted to give it a multiple choice questions. So therefore, with a view of competitive exams and also for your main, your internals and for the examinations, I have given those questions. Okay, so if you carefully observe those questions, even though it look like simple, but you should understand the concept properly. If you know the concepts means, then it will be easy for you people. So what I suggest is you please revise your concepts so that whatever the questions I have given you, it will become an easy questions for all of you. Okay. So I request all the students, so those who are there in the meeting, I request everyone kindly take up the quiz. So it will last by tomorrow. Okay, so by tomorrow 1 o'clock it will last. So I request all the students by today itself. I request all the students you need to take up the quiz. Is that clear? I will not give you any reminder. So these many students have submitted the quiz and these many students have not taken this quiz. I will not do that because I don't want to monitor whether you are taken or not. So it's your interest or it's your responsibility to take up the quiz. Is that clear, everyone? Is that
Yes, sir.
clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So still now whatever we have discussed. So if you have any problem or if you want me to or if you do not understood anything means you can tell me. We will try to brush up the concepts and we will go to the next concept. Yes. So I will just go in brief. So what and all we have discussed in the previous classes and all. Just wait a minute. Hmm. So what we have done is, so we have started with a sequential circuits. So in the sequential circuits, we studied about a latch and a flip flop. So a latch is nothing but It is also a combination circuit only, but it is having a feedback. Okay, so such a circuits we call it as a latch, or it is also called as a sequential circuit. So one basic latch what we have studied is we have studied a SR flip-flop. Okay, so there is a difference between flip-flop and a latch, and in general we call it as a flip-flop only. So the difference between latch and flip-flop is that in latch you will not be having a clock signal. So you can see there is just feedback is there, but there is no clock signal is there. So therefore it is called as a SR latch. So if you want to say that it has to be clock SR flip-flop means then it should have a clock. So you can see this we call it as a clocked SR latch. So or else we can call it as a clocked SR latch also, or we can simply call it as a SR flip-flop. And we see when we saw that in the SR flip-flop, that is nothing but whenever you have an input 0 0, then what happens is whatever the value of q and q bar, it will be retained. So means what, there will be no change in the value. But when s is equal to 0, r is equal to 1, we call it as a reset condition. In this reset condition, what happens is your q will be 0 and your q bar will be 1. Okay, so similarly when s is equal to 1 and r is equal to 0, we call it as a set condition. In that cases what we can see that your q will be 1 and q bar will be 0. And we have not created, or this sequential circuit will not behave like a sequential circuit for one of the input combination called as a 1 1. So means what, it is not allowed in the 1 1. Why? Because in 1 1 state both q and q bar will take 0 0 or 1 1. So therefore it is not defined. Okay, and then we went with the clocked SR, means we are enabling one clock pin. So whenever clock is high means then only the input will be fed into your SR latch, and the corresponding output will be changes. Okay, and after that what we have studied is we went for the flip-flop. So flip-flop, as I told you, for the latch if you apply a clock means it will become a flip-flop. So we have studied a characteristic equation for the SR latch or SR flip-flop. See, it is also called as a RS flip-flop, or it is also called as a reset and set flip-flop. Okay, so you can see here when S and R is equal to 0, it will be retained. Whatever the value you have a Q, that will be retained. When R is equal to 0, S is equal to 1, it is set condition. When R is equal to 1, S is equal to 0, it is called as a reset condition. That is why it is 0. And for 1 1, it is called as a undefined or not allowed. And we created one more flip-flop called as a D flip-flop. So how we have created a D flip-flop? When I combine both JK flip-flop, in that the first input terminal J and K, if I combine them through an inverter, you'll be getting a D flip-flop. So this D flip-flop, it is used to store the data. So you can see here when D is equal to 0, your Q will be 0. When D is equal to 1, your Q will be 1. So means what? We can store whatever the input is there in the flip-flop. So therefore we call it as a data flip-flop, or it is also called as a D flip-flop. The next one we call it as a toggle flip-flop, T flip-flop. See, T flip-flop, what happens is when T is equal to 0, whatever the value you have in Q, that will be retained. If T is equal to 1, what happens is the Q will toggle. So if you have a 0 means it will toggle to 1. If you have a 1 means it will toggle to 0. Okay, so that is the use of T flip-flop. And you remember this T flip-flop, it can act like a frequency divider. This T flip-flop will act like a frequency divider. One more flip-flop we have learned, that is nothing but JK flip-flop. So in order to avoid the that is unavoidable condition in RS flip-flops, so we have created some modifications in the SR flip-flop, and that modifications we call it as a JK flip-flop. So in the JK flip-flop, it works like SR flip-flop only, but only for 1 1 your output will toggle. So if it is Q means it will become Q bar. If it is Q bar means it will become Q. So that is the difference between your SR and JK flip-flop. And this toggle is undesirable phenomena, and this toggling of 0 to 1, 1 to 0, we call it as a race around condition. So therefore what we can say that the JK flip-flop will exhibit a race around condition. It will exhibit a race around condition. It exhibit a race around condition. So in order to avoid this race around condition, we went for the master slave flip flop. So in the master slave flip flop, what we have done is we have created a master slave flip flop by using two SR flip flop. So with the use of two SR flip flop, so whatever the race around condition means the toggling was there, no, we can reduce to only one clock pulse. So for the particular clock pulse, so if it is Q means it will become a Q bar. If this is Q bar means it will become a Q. Only once it will toggle. Okay, so this we have done through the use of this master and slaves flip flop. So in master and slave flip flop, what happens is if there is any change in the output, it will be reflected back to the master when slave is inactive. So means among these two SR flip flop, only one flip flop will be active. So if master is active means slave will be idle. If slave is active means then the master will be idle. So by keeping by any one of the flip flop keeping idle, we can reduce the race around condition. Okay, so therefore we have created this master slave flip flop. Okay, so the operation everything is same only. And the next you can see is before that I have told you, right, T flip flop is toggle flip flop. So how you have created a toggle flip flop, you can see here. So I have taken the JK flip flop only. If I combine this J and K and if I give to only one terminal means it is called as a toggle flip flop. Why? Because if I give T is equal to 0, your Q will be Q only. Whatever the value is there in the previous time, it will remain Q only. When I give T is equal to 1, what happens? Your J is equal to 1 and K is equal to 1. So when J is equal to 1, K is equal to 1, what happens is it will start toggle. It will start toggle. So if you have Q, it will become a Q bar. And if you have this 1, it will become a 0. So therefore it is called as a toggle flip flop. So once again I am telling you, this toggle flip flop can be used as a voltage divider circuit. The next one is D flip flop. So I can create this D flip flop by using a JK flip flop only. How? By putting an inverter between a J and K. Okay, so now you can see here when D is equal to 0, what happens? This K will be 0 and J will be 0, your K will be 1 because you are passing through an inverter. So 0, 1 means what? It is reset condition. So therefore your Q will be 0. Now when D is equal to 1, what happens this? Your J will be 1 and your K will be 0. So means set condition. Therefore your Q will be 1. So therefore I can make this D flip flop as a to store the data. It is to store the data. We will be using a D flip flop. Now what? We will be using some applications of this sequential circuit. So one of the applications what we have used is the shift registers. So I can make the SR flip flop to use like a shift registers. So this I told you, right? It is give you output of right shift operation. So can anybody tell me why we use this right shift operation? Which operation we can implement? Either we can implement multiplier or divider. Which operation we can do if I do the right shift operation? Yes, anyone? If I shift the data towards right, whether we can able to implement multiplication or division? Anyone? Yes, we discussed this in the last class, right? Yes, I request everyone, please, whatever those who are raised your hand, remove those hands. Nitin, Nivedita, Monica, Nitin, NM, and raise your hands. Okay. See, in the last class, I told you if you shift your data. So let's say you have a data that is nothing but A4, A3, A2 and A1. So if you shift your data right side, what happens? This will become a division operation. If you shift your data towards left side, means it will become a multiplication. Okay, so we can implement multiplication and division by using these shift registers. Okay, so we can make use of this shift registers by using a D flip flop. So this we call it as a 4-bit shift registers, and it is also called as a serial to parallel out shift registers. Why? Because we can feed the data serially, but we can simultaneously take the data. Therefore, we call it as a serial in parallel out. Then we start with the counters. So counter, why we use counter? See, because in digital circuits, we will be using some events we want to monitor. So if an event has to be monitored, means it has to be done through counting only. So therefore, we need to implement a counters in a digital circuit. So there are two types of counters. What we can implement is, so one we call it as a asynchronous counter, and one we call it as a synchronous counter. So what you mean by asynchronous counter is, so in asynchronous counter, the clock signal will not be given simultaneously for all the flip-flops. In asynchronous counter, the clock signal will not be given simultaneously. Whereas in the case of synchronous counter, all the flip-flops will be given a simultaneous flip-flop. So therefore, it is called as a synchronous counter. And if you want to design an n-bit counter, means then you require n shift registers you require. And how many count values you can do is, you can count to 2 power n minus 1. So starting with 0, you can count up to 2 power n minus 1. Let's say you created a 3-bit counter, means then it is how many it can count? It can count from 0 to 2 power 3 minus 1. So means what? 7 values it can count. So what are those 7 values? 0 to 8 values. So means 0 to 7 values it can count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 it can count. Okay, so one simple asynchronous counter, what we have learned is, we have learned a ripple counter, that is 3-bit counter we have learned. So the corresponding diagram and the tabular column is over here. Okay, so then the corresponding timing diagram we have discussed in the last class. And then we discussed about one more ripple counter, that is a modulo 5. So the modulo 5 means what? It can count maximum of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because modulo 5 means, so you'll be counting only up to 4. If I create a modulo 8 means, so you can count up to 0 to 7. So we have created this modulo 5 counter by using this T flip-flop. So the corresponding diagram and circuit diagram we have written over here. Then we went for synchronous counter. In the synchronous counter, we went for the 16-bit counter. Mod 16 we have created. Why? Because we have created a 4-bit counter. So for this 4-bit counter, if I want to create, means I should combine this T flip-flop so that it will work like a synchronous counter. So you can see here, all clock will be having a given all flip-flops are given a clock simultaneously. Okay, so in order to get a count values from 0 to 16, we should do some combinations of T flip-flops. So this is how we have done, and these we discussed in the last class. Okay, and today we are going to discuss one more important concept, that is the last concept in your module number 5, and that we call it as a basic communication system. We call it as a basic communication system. So if you want to create a basic communication system, what are the things you require? Yes, can anybody tell me? Now I want to have a communication with you, or two peoples are there and they want to have a communication. So what are the minimum requirement they need to have? Yes, anyone?
Transmitter and receiver.
Transfer and receiver. Yes, Mohit. Apart from transfer and receiver, anything has to be required? If I have a transfer and receiver, whether the communication will be established, Mohit?
Yes, sir.
Only these two? Yes, anyone apart from
Signal path is also required.
Yes, okay. Signal path is required. So, in order to establish a basic communication link, we need three important entity. One we call it as a transmitter, one more we call it as a receiver, and one more we call it as a intermediator. Intermediate means whatever transmitter is transmitting, the receiver has to receive, right? So we need an intermediate so that the communication will be successful, or the communication will reach from transmitter to receiver, and that we call it as a channel. Okay, so if you ask me in general, so we can say only three blocks. One we call it as a transmitter, TX, and one we call it as a channel, and one more we call it as a receiver. One more we call it as a receiver. So the intermediator we call it as a channel, and the receiver we'll call it as a RX. But along with this, so we need some more blocks. So what are those blocks we need is, so this is the diagram which will depicts you the elements which are required for the basic communication system. Okay, so now what we do is that, so this we call it as a transmitter. Okay, and this we call it as a receiver. This we call it as a receiver. Okay, and this we call it as a communication channel. Only 3 blocks only, but we have in the 3 blocks we have subdivided them. Okay, so why we have subdivided them, I will be explaining you. So the first block in the communication system, we call it as a source. Yes, can anybody tell me, or can you guess, just assume what you mean by source?
Sir,
What do you mean by
a
source?
person will speak something. What kind of?
Yes, yes. A person will speak something. Yes, apart from that, anyone? Apart from that,
Input signals.
signal.
Input
Yes,
signals.
input signal. Yes, very good. Next, Manish. Yes, Manish was trying to say something.
Sir, input signal. That was me, sir.
Yes, input. Yes, Mohit Gowda.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mohit. Yes, you were trying to say something, right? What do you mean by source?
Nothing, sir. I mean, phone.
Yes, phone can be a source. Yes. See, source is nothing but it is a information. See, now what I want to have a communication. So if I want to transfer some information, if I want to transfer something means I should have something, right? So that we call it as a source. So source is nothing but it is a device which generates the information. It is a device which generates the information. So source may be different types. Okay, so source may be different types. So what are the common sources we can have? Yes, can anybody tell me what are the common sources we can have? What are the different types of sources we can have or information? Is anyone? Different types of information means what? Is anyone? Is Pooja, Arpita? Okay.
Sir, I think the types of information is like audio information or video information like that.
Yes, very good, Nitin. See, the source of information is nothing but what are the different types of information we want to transfer. So, as Nitin said, so it may be your audio, it may be your text message, or it may be your video message. Okay, and it may be just some speech may be there. Okay, so these we call it as a source of information. A source is nothing but an electrical circuit or electrical device which produce the information. So the information may be audio, the information may be text, or it might be image, or it may be video also. So we have these many source of information, and these source of information or these information will be created or it will be produced by the source element. Okay, so this we call it as a source. So the next one, what we call it as a input transducer is, have you heard about this input transducer? Anyone? What do you mean by transducer? In your PUC or anywhere, have you heard about this transducer? Is anyone?
Sir, which amplifies the signal.
Not exactly.
Sir, I think which converts the signal like analog form to electrical form.
Yes. That can be, yes, Nitin. See, we need to use a transducer. So why we need to use the transducer is, so we need to convert the source of information from one entity to another entity or from one form of information to another form of information. So as Nitin said, so what we do is the input signal what we are going to convert is we want to convert them into electrical signals. So now what I am speaking, so I am giving you the audio signal. So this audio signal I want to reach to you. I want to make this my audio signal to be reached to you. So we are geographically apart from each other now. So what my input transducer is doing is, so it is receiving my audio signals and these audio signals are converting into corresponding electrical signals. Okay, so the device which will convert one form of energy into another form of energy, we call it as an input transducer, we call it as. So since here we need to process it, so therefore what I'm trying to do is the given input information, that is information I'm converting into electrical signals. Okay, so that job will be done by the transducer. So why? Because your processor or your transmitter has to transmit the signal. So if a transmitter has to transmit the signal, means it has to be in electrical signals only. But as I told you, source, it may be an audio, it may be in video, it may be in text, or it may be in speech. So this has to be converted into electrical signal. So that job will be done by the transducer. Okay. So the next one, we call it as a modulator or a transmitter. Yes. Can anybody tell me what is the uses of this modulator and transmitter? Anyone? Anyone?
Sir, it increases the frequency, sir.
It increases the frequency. Yes,
Sir,
correct.
it produces a strong signal.
Yes, very good. It's strong. It produces a strong signal and it increases the frequency. Why we should increase the frequency, Manish?
Because, sir, that transducer, after passing from transducer, that signal is weak, sir.
Okay. Hmm. Yes. Okay.
For long distance transmission, sir, that's why.
Yes, very good. Very good. For the just wait a minute. Okay, so as Manish said, see, when I pass the given signal, that is to the transducer, it will not reduce the signal level. So it just amplifies the given source or information to electrical signal. But if I want to transmit for the longer distance, so as we were, let's say we are in the class. So when I talk with all of you people, you can able to hear me. Now, if I'm in right wing and if you people are in left wing in my college, so if I talk my from EC department, it is not audible for you in CS department. Why? Because the signal level or the range of voice I am giving, it is not reaching to you destination. Why? Because of the less amplitude. So now what I want to do is, if I want to transmit my information for the longer duration means, then I need to increase my voice level, but I cannot do that. I can increase that, but how much? Up to only certain level. Okay, so if I want to go beyond that means, then what I should do is I should use some alternative devices which will amplify my information or which will boost my information so that signals will transfer for the longer distance. So therefore, what we need is we need a modulators, or it is also called as a transmitters. Okay, so what the transmitter will does is it will amplifies the given signal. It will convert the low frequency values into high frequency values. These high frequency value will be traveling for the longer distance. And we will be using a modulation. So what do you mean by modulation? Modulation is nothing but it is a process of varying the given input information through the use of high frequency carrier, because we know that high frequency signals will travel for a longer distance. So what I will do is I will modify these high frequency carriers in accordance with my message so that these carriers will travel for the longer distance. At the receiver side, what I will do is I will do some process so that I can recollect or remodel the given information in the receiver part. Okay, so that job will be done by your transmitter or called as a modulator. Okay, so now what I done after modulation, I will be passing through the channel. So the channel is nothing but the communication media between your transmitter and receiver. And this communication media, it is prone to errors. Why? Because it is not a linear channel. Because if I transmit the signal, it will not reach you receiver directly. Why? Because we have so many buildings are there, we have some means vehicles are moving around the environment, okay, and we have a light rays falling to on us. So because of the signal propagation between these media, the degradation in the signal will take place in the communication channel, and that degradation or unwanted signals will be added to your channel, and that we call it as a communication channel. In that information we call it as a noise. Okay, so noise is nothing but it is an unwanted signals which may be added. Noise is nothing but it is a unwanted signal which may be added in the process of data transmitting from source to receiver. So there are two types of unwanted signals may be generated in the environment. So the first one is we call it as an unwanted noises because of the environment, or unwanted noises because of the man-made noises. Okay, so because of the environment means, so when a signal is propagating, so because of the light rays or because of the lightning, so there will be amplification in the amplitude will takes place. So that will also we call it as a noise. So such a noise we call it as a environmental noise. And some man-made noises means, so because of these buildings and because of the poor implementation or fabrication in the transmitter also, so there also some signals will be generated, and those type of signals we call it as a man-made noises. Okay, so if you want to create an effective communication system means, so you need to how you're going to reduce or how you're going to tackle these noises, that plays an important role in the efficiency determination of your communication system. So at the receiver side, what I will do is, again, the high frequency content, I need to convert back to low frequency content. So therefore, I will be using a demodulator, or we call it as a receiver. So after receiver, the electrical signal has to convert back to a original source of information. So that I will be giving you one more output transducer. And finally, you'll be getting the information what you have transmitted. So whatever the information you have created in the source, so the same has to be appear at the destination. So then only we can say that the communication system has been successfully established, and the communication between the source and destination has been taken place successfully. Is that clear, this one, everyone? Is that clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, we go for one more. Yes, Pushkar, tell me.
No, sir, I'm saying yes, sir.
See, one more important communication system, what we have seen around nowadays is a basic cellular communication system. So that also we need to understand, not in a complete manner, or some overview of the basic mobile communication, how it has been generated. So they have given you in this syllabus. Okay, the simplest communications what we are seeing in around our environment is nothing but your cellular communication or a mobile communication. Okay, so why we have created this cellular communication is to establish a communication between the two persons. So we have created this cellular technology. And in order to provide the services to all the geographical areas who are using the mobile phones, so what generally we will do is the given geographical area. So you can see here, the given geographical area is being divided into smaller cells, and each cells has been represented with the use of hexagon. Okay, so the given geographical area, what we do is we will divide them into smaller sites or areas, and each areas we are going to divide them in the form of hexagonals. Okay, and whoever base stations or whoever mobiles falls under these areas, so the corresponding base stations, we call it as the corresponding base stations will serve the users which are falls under these categories. Okay, so this is how your cellular system, the geographical locations has been divided. Okay, so the geographical location of your cellular system has been divided into a smaller areas, and these smaller areas we call it we will be representing in terms of hexagonals, and these hexagonals, depending upon the size of the a cell, So how we going to create this size depending upon the number of users within the geographical area, and what is the signal quality of the over that area, and what is the density of the mobiles over those area. So depending upon that, we are going to create these cells, and depending upon the number of users what are there in the given cell, so either we can incorporate one base station or two base stations or four base stations. Okay, so like that we are going to incorporate these base stations and we can establish a communication. So the basic cellular communication system can be divided into three important entities. So what are those important entities? So the first one we call it as a mobile station, the second one we call it as a base station, and the third one we call it as a mobile switching center. Okay, so what is this base station? What is this mobile station? And what is this mobile switching center? We can able to explain this with the use of this diagram. Okay, so I will anyway have shared you this notes to you. So I request all the students, you please copy this diagram from the PDF. Okay, so now we can see here the three important elements of the basic cellular system is the first we call it as a mobile station. It is also called as a terminal equipment. Okay, so the second one we call it as a base station. So you can see the mobile station, what and all it is compromising of. It is compromising of, that is SIM. So SIM is nothing but subscriber identity module. So whatever the 10-digit number we are using, right, for the identification of our number. So it consists of a SIM. So SIM is nothing but subscriber identity module, and it has a mobile phone, that is a trans receiver it has. Okay, so this we call it as a mobile station. The next one, what we have a base station, we call it as a base station subsystem. So this base station subsystem, it consists of two important components. One is called as a base station trans receivers, and one more we call it as a base station controller. It is consisting of two important subsystem. One we call it as a BTS, one we call it as a base station trans receivers. One more we call it as a BSC. BSC means base station controllers. So what it does, it act like a coordinator, or it act like a mediator between your mobile equipment to your terminal network subsystem. Okay, so it is act like a mediator between your mobile stations and to your PST, and that is nothing but a physical station, that is a public station trans receiver system is there, right? So it will act like a mediator between these two. Okay, and your that is, just wait a minute, and your, just wait a minute, sorry. And your mobile switching center, it is consisting of some important subsystem. So for the first one we call it as a home location registers. So the second we call it as a visitor location registers, and the third one we call it as a equipment identity registers, and the fourth one we call it as a authentication center. Okay, so what is this home location registers? So when you subscribe or when you take up any SIM or when you take up any mobile, so the IMEI number will be there, right? So that number and your address and the basic information about the subscriber will be stored in home location registers. So it's something like that. If I take a phone in a SIM card, or if I take a mobile in a Vidyanagar cross, means then my home location register, that is where whatever the home location register which has been allocated for the Vidyanagar, right? So all the users, those who have taken the SIM or those who have taken the mobile equipment, so the information will be registered in the home location registers. So one more information registers, or one more important registers what the MCH will be having is visitor location registers. So now something like, because of this lockdown, what happened is, so I have come to my native place, but the base station should know where exactly, whether the user is authenticated or not, whether the user he has already subscribed to our network or not. He has to see, right? Now what I have done is, from my home location, I have come to some other station. So there also I should provide a services. So in order to get the information of such users, so we need to create one more registers. So those registers will hold the information about the the users apart from the home location registers, we call it as a visitor location registers. Okay, so now what if you move from one station to another station? So before we are providing the services, they will be checking your credentials, whether you are a true user or not, or whether you are an authenticated user or not. How they will be checking you? They will be checking you through the use of visitor location register. Okay, and you need to have your basic information has to be registered in some entities, and those entities we call it as a equipment identity registers. So all the users who are allowed to use a network, so all those users database will be maintained in a equipment identity registers. So if your phone is lost, what we do is we will be checking the IMEI number. That is nothing but International Mobile Equipment Identity. We will be checking you. So for each user, so for each mobile phone, we will be allocating this mobile equipment identity number. So if the mobile has been stolen means, so what we will do is we will give a complaint to the police station with the use of this IMEI number. So okay, based upon the SIM what you have taken and based upon the geographical location where exactly the mobile phone is there, so the police will track it. Okay, so all those information will be there in a equipment, that is a equipment identity registers. Okay, so these are the important component what you are going to use in your GSM system. What are the three important component? Your mobile station and your base station and your MCS, that is mobile switching center. So this mobile switching center, it consists of home location register, visitor location register, mobile switching center. So this mobile switching center will be connected to your PSTN network. That is nothing but your landline. Okay, landline will be connected. Okay, along with that you will be having authentication registers will be having. Okay, so this is how the communication will be established between your cellular network. Okay, and the last one is your cellular telephone circuit. So when you want to create any cellular telephone circuit within your mobile means, then all those equipments or all those necessary entities what you should have is you should have a control unit, you should have a logic unit, you should have a receiver, you should have a frequency synthesizer, and you should have a transmitter. Okay, so what do you mean by controller? So it is nothing but it is a set of speaker, okay, or it is a microphone which is used to provide you the dialing facility. So that we call it as a control unit. Okay, so when you open your mobile phone, so you need to feed the input, right? So how you are going to feed the input? Through the use of this control unit only. The next one we call it as a logic unit. So what is this logic unit? It is also called as a cellular radio also it is called. Okay, so what is it does? So you need to process your information. So whatever the information it has been given by the control unit, you need to process it. So that processor we call it as a logic unit. Okay, so the next one we call it as a receiver. Okay, so what is this receiver? It is consists of an RS amplifier and FM demodulator, and along with that it will be consisting of some filters. Whatever the information which will be given from the base station, so it will process it. In order to process that, you need to have a RF amplifier and you need to have a FM demodulator. Okay, so this is the job of your receiver. And finally, you need to use a frequency synthesizer. So you are going to use this frequency synthesizer in order to generate the different frequency component. Based upon the different frequency component only, we can able to dial the phone number, and based upon the different frequency combinations of the dialed phone number, so your mobile will be connected to your MCS, and from the MCS the destination users will be ring, so that the communication will be established. So the corresponding diagram for your cellular mobile radio network is being shown over here. Okay, so this cellular radio network will be there in your mobile station and also in the base station. So these are the logics what we are going to use. Is anyone any doubts? Yes. Okay. So this completes your module number 1. So if you have any doubts or any clarifications has to be given means another 2 minutes is there. You please discuss with me. Yes. Yes, anyone? And I have already shared the model number 1 and assignment questions also I have shared you. Okay, so the deadline what I have given is, so this weekend I have given you the deadline. Is that okay, students? Yes, Pushkar, do you have any deadline in that time? Any other subjects?
Yes, sir. Mathematics.
Mathematics. When they have given Manish for you the assignment?
Sir, 26, sir, last day.
26 they have given you. Okay.
No, deadline, sir.
Deadline 26 they have given you. Okay, so what
Yes, sir.
I think when I have given the deadline, I think I have given you 27th, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Is it possible for you to complete on 27th? Is it possible? If it is possible means yes, or else okay, we will see it out. Okay, so this completes your model number 1. So we will go to the model number 2 from today tomorrow onwards. Okay, so I hope I have cleared all your doubts, or I have cleared the concepts somewhat little extent. I think you have understood that. So I request all the students kindly go through these modules once again, read once by yourself, so that these modules will be comfortable for you people to read it for the internals and also for the main examination. Is that clear? Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. Thank you for attending the classes. So I will take it from the attendance from this report only. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Okay. Thank you all.